It's 7 o'clock. Before I call the official meeting to order, I just want to give a few of the rules for the people that have not been on our Zoom meetings before. Generally, if you see a white background with a city logo, that is a city staff person, and you should be able to see their title and name so you can give a reference to maybe who's talking. Generally, the blue backgrounds with city logo are elected officials that are in the meeting virtually. There are 4 elected officials that are actually in council chambers. So you'll see the council chambers, so you won't necessarily see 8 windows for elected officials. If you are a member of the public and you intend to speak on an item, then you will be given that opportunity, but it will be in the normal course of a meeting. So it'll only be in a public hearing when we open the public hearing, or on an item when I call for proponents and opponents. That will be the time for the public to speak. And in those, I'll ask for proponents first, which will be those that are for an item, and then I'll ask for opponents, which are those against an item. And whenever we do a public hearing or proponents or opponents, we allow the applicant to go first. So if you do want to speak on an item and you're not the applicant, please wait for your turn, and then we'll try to get through. And then I also do ask that if you are not a staff member or not an elected official, that you leave your microphone muted so we don't get the background noise and the dogs barking and the side conversations about vacations. If you are an applicant, you were asked to send you any presentation materials in ahead of time, and we would bring those up at the appropriate time. We do not allow screen sharing because that has been abused in other public meetings, and we're not going to allow that. So if you are an applicant with a presentation and it was not sent in, it will not be used for this meeting. I think that is all of the reminders. So I'd like to call the Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Ms. Brown, would you please take the roll?
Sunday.
Here.
Mumgard. Mumgard.
Here.
Gaines.
Here.
Glover.
Here.
Jaworski.
Here.
Klug.
Here.
Stubbe.
Here.
Engberg.
Here.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
We do.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the council chambers and also online at www.papillion.org. We have one proclamation I'd like to give tonight, and I'll just go ahead and read it. Whereas since 1985, Public Service Recognition Week is held the first week of May to honor those who serve the nation as federal, state, county, and local government employees. And whereas each day government employees serve their fellow citizens, and we recognize the valuable role they play in our community. And whereas it is critical for employees to provide high quality service and to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And whereas the City of Papillion realizes the importance of honoring city employees and acknowledging their dedication and service. And whereas the City of Papillion recognizes that employees are completing important work that positively affects all of us every day, and they deserve thanks for working diligently on our behalf. Now, therefore, I, David P. Black, Mayor of the City of Papillion, do hereby proclaim the week of May 3rd through 9th, 2020 as Public Service Recognition Week. In witness whereof I have hereunto set the hand and caused the official seal of the City of Papillion to be affixed this first day of May 2020. And just a quick follow-up comment to that, just greatly appreciate the flexibility they've got during a global pandemic and state of emergency and a shutdown. And I don't think we've taken a hit on any services being delivered. And so just really appreciate the city employees and their diligence. So thank you very much. Ms. Myers, Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick updates for council members. We need to reconvene the Public Safety Committee meeting, just an update to some of the projects that you need some feedback on. So we're looking at May 19th before the City Council meeting, and that would include council members Gaines, Glover, Sunday, and Mumgard, Again, we've got a couple pending items, including the next steps in the calming of 84th Street. So if you can tentatively plan for that, we'll send you out those details. Also, the pavement improvement program has begun. If you haven't already noticed, there have been some of the older parts of the city streets being repaired. We're expecting the sealant portion of that program to begin in mid-July, so expect that. The new areas that were just recently annexed were just analyzed, and so Santec and that group is going through the details so that we can update the overall plan. So good news, thanks to Jeff Thompson and his team, and Alex as well. I see that he's in attendance. So lastly, if you haven't heard, the Sarpy County Board voted today to purchase the Black Hills Energy Building. They're going to be locating some of their administrative offices to that location in the interim while they update and expand their current campus. So they're expecting to be there between 3 and 5 years. So that is all I have, Mayor Black.
Thank you very much. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Sunday,
Second.
second by Councilman Gaines. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
Sunday,
Aye.
Mumgarde,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Stube,
Yes.
Ingberg,
yes,
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item D1, Ordinance 1881, an ordinance to annex certain real estate to the city of Papillion, Nebraska, and to provide for an effective date. Is there a council member that will introduce?
Ingberg will introduce.
Introduced by Ingberg. Thank you. D2, Ordinance 1882, an ordinance to change the official zoning map of the city of Papillion in accordance with Section 20532 of the Papillion Municipal Code, to adopt a zoning map and to apply existing or future zoning regulations, property use regulations, building ordinances, electrical ordinances, plumbing ordinances, and all other regulatory ordinances of the city of Papillion pursuant to Nebraska Revised Statute 16901, the applicant, city of Papillion. Is there a councilmember that will introduce?
Klug will introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Klug. Thank you. D3, Ordinance 1883, an ordinance to amend Papillion Municipal Code 18.2 regarding contracts between the city of Papillion and nonprofit organizations. Is there a councilman that will introduce?
Mumgarde will introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Mumgarde. Item E1, Ordinance 1878, an ordinance to amend Article 23 PUD Planned Unit Development Overlay District of Chapter 205 of the Papillion Municipal Code. The applicant is the city of Papillion, PUD Planned Unit Development Overlay District Regulations Ordinance Amendment. This is a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have any proponents?
I don't. Are you pooping? Yeah, okay.
Do we have any
She's in the drop
opponents?
zone.
I was early.
If you are a member of the public, please mute your microphone. I will close the public hearing. Item E2, just about. Okay, thank you. Item E2, Ordinance 1880, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from AG Agricultural to CC Community Commercial and R4 Multifamily Residential for the property legally described as a tract of land located in part of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter and part of the northwest quarter of the northwest quarter located in Section 1, Township 13 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m. Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located southeast of 72nd Street and Schramm Road. The applicant is Papillion Park LLC, 72
I don't know what
Place.
you're supposed to
This
say.
is a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have proponents? Is the applicant? Do we have
Yes,
any-
you're here.
Yes.
Yes. I apologize. I got some exhibits, I think, late to staff. I don't know if they got them or not.
No. I'm saying.
Can you hold on one second? We've got some background noise we want to try to shut off. Okay, go ahead.
I did, would I be able to share my screen? Am I allowed to do that?
No.
Okay. So, well,
Our
I got some
presentations are supposed to be sent in ahead of time. We do have screen sharing turned off.
Okay. Well, and I apologize for having some exhibits late to staff. And so I'll kind of go through an overview of the project. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to look at, but in general, this project is an 80-acre parcel located just south of the Sac Federal Credit Union addition. It's on the east side of 72nd Street, and Schramm Road will actually extend to the east on the northern boundary of our parcel. We've been working with staff on this project, trying to get this to this point. This is, like I said, about an 80-acre parcel. We have 144 total single-family lots on our project. We have 4 lots that are slated for multifamily. Half of those lots would be traditional apartment-style project, and the other half of those lots, potentially a newer product in the marketplace. We're still working through what that product would look, but currently right now, we're just asking for the R4 zoning at that location. And then we've got 4 commercial lots at this project that are on the northeast corner of our project on this parcel. You know, we think this is a great location.
4707 Brook Circle.
What?
Go ahead.
We think this is a great location for our project, where this is the change of zone for this project, and I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions on the change of zone or on the project itself. And again, I apologize for the exhibits.
Oh, no worry. And you were, there was some talking over you right when we started. Just for the record, can you go ahead and state your name and address
Yep.
again?
Yes, Jason Thielen, E&A Consulting Group, 1099 Mill Valley Road, Suite 100. With me, Larry Jobin, Gene Graves, developer.
Thanks, Gene. Thanks. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Item F1, ordinance 1877, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from Warner Enterprises, Inc., Prairie Corners Mixed Use District. Is there a motion to? I'm muted. Sorry about that. We had the city council chambers was muted, so I'm going to start again with F1 in case somebody didn't get that. Item F1,
Hey, Mayor.
ordinance 1877. An ordinance to approve a change of zone from limited industrial LI to mixed use MU for the property legally described as lots 1, 2, and 4, Prairie Corners 5 replat 2, formerly known as part of lots 3 and 4, Prairie Corners 5, lot 5, Prairie Corners 5, and lots 1 and 2, Prairie Corners 5 replat 1, lots 6, 7, 8, and 9, Prairie Corners 2, generally located east of the intersection of Highway 50 and Cornhusker Road. The applicants are Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores, Midi Properties LLC, and Warner Enterprises, Inc., Prairie Corners Mixed Use District. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 1877?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Sunday. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Is there any council discussion? If not, please vote.
Sunday,
Aye.
Mumgarde,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Stubbe,
Yes.
Ingberg,
yes,
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F2, Resolution R200076, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a preliminary plat for the property legally described as a tract of land located in part of the northeast quarter of the northwest corner and part of the northwest quarter of the northwest quarter located in Section 1, Township 13 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located southeast of 72nd Street and Schramm Road. The applicant is Papillion Park LLC, 72 Place. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. We'll also carry comments over from the prior one to this one, but I know the applicant's on. Anything else to share?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Jason Phelan.
Could you speak up just a little bit, please?
Is it closer? Sorry, I'll get closer. How about that?
That works. Thank you.
Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Jason Phelan of B&A Consulting Group. The consulting engineers on the project also is Gene Graves is in the room as well, assisting the developer in this particular project. I think at this juncture, on this part, we're going to request that maybe this be laid over to the next city council meeting. There's some of the contingencies I think we need to fully digest. I mean, we've been working on this project for almost a couple of years now, I think about 18 months. And there's some things that I think we need to look at and analyze a little bit further. And then there's just one comment on the resolution that causes us some angst or worry, and that's number 2, that talks about that we shall not be able to present this to the city council until such time as that the contingencies outlined under section 1 have been completed by the applicant to the satisfaction of the planning director and the city engineer. That causes us some pause and concern, because we think we should always be able to come to the city council to have discussion regarding the contingencies to a preliminary plat. And I guess what we don't want to have happen is we get held down and we can't come to you and you're the deciding body within the city of Papillion to approve this preliminary plat and the rezoning. So there's other things within the contingencies I think we can work offline with planning and the city staff. But I did think that maybe item number 2 in the resolution should be addressed, because I mean, it seems to almost take away your due process rights. If you can't come to the council, the body that can approve and has the power and authority to approve something, it seems interesting that we would be held hostage at the staff level. We should at least be able to have the discussion. So I wanted to address that one in particular, but then lay over the whole matter until the next city council meeting.
Okay. And just procedurally, since we're in a public hearing and we did advertise that, we'll go ahead and finish the public hearing, close that, and then to your request, then we'll look to council to see if they want to table it or if they want to continue, if that works.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have some
Yes.
questions for Mr. Jobin.
Go ahead, Mr. Mumgard.
Mr. Jobin, first off, this item had significant controversy when it was at the Planning Commission quite some time ago. Yeah, now it comes in front of us with a significant number of contingencies, many of which are very serious. I'll just ask you very bluntly, why have these contingencies not been worked out before it shows up for a preliminary plan?
Well, actually, Mr. Mumgard, I think that most of them have. I think most of the issues at the Planning Commission level were surrounded itself with the source and use of funds and the public improvements that would be required with this particular plat. We had met with staff and Chris Myers, the city administrator, about that, and I think we worked out those issues. I really don't think that the finances are necessarily within the purview of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission looks at preliminary plats and zoning with respect to compliance with the comprehensive development plan and those kinds of things. And what I said to the Planning Commission was that you would never see this final plat if we didn't have a financially feasible deal, because we have to be able to sell this debt to a municipal bond underwriting firm to finance the public improvements. And I think we've worked out the source and use of funds, and we've phased some of the public infrastructure to fix those issues. And Chris maybe can speak more to that. But we really wanted to dive in a little more detail on the contingencies A through G. I mean, some of them are fine. I mean, I don't see any issue with any of them. I think this is a great project and one we can move forward with. I think Mr. Sturzman would agree. I hope that that's the case. And we've spent a lot of time on this particular project. It's a good project. It's a great location. It's a total mix of uses between the commercial and the multifamily and the single family residential housing. I think we've developed a way to finance this feasibly and in accordance with your master plan and meet all your requirements. I just think this kind of caught us a little off guard, and we weren't able to really analyze the things that are set forth in section 1. But section 2 was one of those things that you're like, okay, wait a minute, you know, we should always be able to have a discussion with the city council as to what the requirements are for this particular development. That's my only issue.
Okay, well, you've got me somewhat confused because the only thing I have is the resolution, which has under number 1, contingencies A through G.
That's right. I'm talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's about the same thing you are.
Some of those have been worked out. Why are they still on our resolution?
Well, you have to ask the staff that. We agree. Sometimes the things are carry forwards and carry overs. And I would agree with you if they've been addressed, maybe they shouldn't be on here. We're willing to address them. This is the preliminary plat stage of the process. We still have to come back to planning commission on the final plat and this council on the final plat. So there's time to work through these issues. And I'm hopeful that we can do that. And our only thought is, you know, maybe we lay this over one more time just to take one more look at items A through G, come back to you hopefully with a cleaner record and a cleaner resolution is the thought. And so that's why we thought this would be, rather than burden you guys today and take the time to go through this today, I think let's take time to go through A through G offline with the staff and then come back to you hopefully with a cleaner resolution.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Did that answer your question,
Okay.
Mr. Mumgard?
I'm going to support your request to lay this over. Clearly, we have not gotten to a point where either you or the staff is ready to have us vote on it. So it is appropriate for you to ask for it to be laid over.
We'll go ahead and finish the public hearing, and then we'll pick up that discussion with the motion to table.
Well, hold it, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'll ask you a hypothetical question, Mr. Jobin, with respect to contingency number 2. Now, it tells me that if the staff says that the contingencies have not been worked out, that there's no point in bringing a final plat to us. Are you suggesting, on the other hand, that some of these contingencies, if they have not been worked out with staff, that we should nonetheless approve a final plat?
Well, that depends. I mean, there are certain cases clearly where, I mean, the whole matrix of the recommendations and the ultimate approvals, I mean, you can hit every part of it, right? You can have a negative recommendation from the staff, you could have a positive recommendation from the commission, you could have a negative recommendation or negative approval from the council, right? You could have favorable from the staff, favorable from the commission, and you get shot down at the council. I mean, I think the full gamut of the matrix is available. My only thought is we're going to try like crazy to work this out with the staff before it comes to you. I hope we come with a clean resolution to you so we don't have that issue. My problem is if there's something in A through G that we think there's a difference of opinion on, there's maybe 2 rational bases for, you know, why you would move this plat forward. We should have the discussion before the council. I mean, I hope we can agree with the staff and we probably will be able to, but if we can't for some reason, but there's a reasonable viewpoint on both sides, then the discussion really should go to the council as far as, because that's within your purview as the governing body of your city to approve things. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, fine. I guess I don't care whether section 2 is in this resolution or not, but I will tell you, sure, I'm willing to listen to a reasonable explanation as to why our paid professional staff should be ignored. But it will have to be a pretty damn good, reasonable explanation from you. So good luck.
And Mr. Mumgard, in no way are we trying to say we're going to ignore them or disregard them. I don't think in my practice in front of the Papillion, I've ever done that. So I don't think we're talking about ignoring the staff. I don't think we're talking about doing an end around. I think we're talking about working with them as best as we can. But if there is a disagreement, which reasonable minds can differ on, right? We should have the discussion before the council, not be precluded from ever coming to you. That's all I'm suggesting.
Thank you.
Uh,
We're still in public hearing. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. So is based on the applicant's request, is there a,
That's based on conversation.
let's get a motion on the floor first, whether it's the motion to table or motion to approve. If there are a council member that wants to,
Oh.
Councilman Sunday gave a motion to table.
Councilman Gaines, I'll second that motion, but I do have some questions prior to the vote if that's possible.
Yeah, did you give a second?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second to table, so we'll have council discussion. I think Mr. Ingberg tried to get in before I close the public hearing. Did you have
Yes.
something, Mr. Ingberg?
Yes, Mayor, it doesn't necessarily coincide with tabling it, but if it's appropriate, I'd like to ask a couple questions or make one statement and ask a question. First of all, I don't want the developer or Mr. Jobin to feel like this is an adversarial relationship, because it certainly isn't. Ultimately, the council has to make a decision about whether final plat is acceptable or not. Though we rarely are not in agreement with the staff, it may happen, and it may happen occasionally. It may rarely happen, which is usually the case. But in any situation, I do think that the developer has a reasonable expectation of coming and speaking to the council, at least have the opportunity, if they don't agree on a contingency, to at least explain it to the full council and at least have a chance to make their case. So we may approve it despite not meeting 1 or 2 or 3 contingencies. So I hope we can work it out, but if not, it does need to come back to us as a final. Secondly, my question is for Mr. Sturzman, just to clarify something on this development. Is this considered one of the developments we planned for future development, which is community oriented? In other words, is geared to have some commercial, some residential, some multifamily, and have the commercial serve the area, kind of a small walking community? Is this, because it seems to me we were going to do that along our initial planning along Schramm Road. So does this follow that recipe?
Well, this site was identified for, I think it was neighborhood mixed use. I'd have to go back and check, but it does provide a mix of uses. It has a commercial component, a multifamily component, a medium density component, and a single family component. I think it's not part of our Capehart road pending plan, where we have a mix of mixed use nodes at the major intersections.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my question exactly. I know we were going to do it along Capehart, and I was curious if this was similar. If I could ask one question of the developer, Mayor, then I'll be done.
Go ahead.
Although it may not be necessarily the council purview, I'm curious because this mixed use does include all 3 components: commercial, residential, and multifamily. I'm curious that, does the financial stability of this development rely upon the multifamily to support it overall?
Well, I think so, because all 3 of the components play off each other. I mean, there was, in the source use of funds, we always put valuations on every component or every aspect of the development. So in order to get to the debt to value ratio that we got to, it was based upon that mix of uses, that number of units of the apartments, that number of units of the single family detached residential houses, and that much square footage of commercial. So everything was really an integral part of coming up with the whole mix of uses and the financial aspects of this development. So yes.
Well, to clarify, when you say meet the financial threshold, you're talking about the requirement the city has for the debt ratio, correct? Meeting our requirement?
Yes, and the staff's been great, and we worked with Chris Myers to come up with a way to phase, for example, Schramm Road, a way to phase 66th Street that really isn't served by anybody. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. And the source use of funds actually got to an acceptable rate or level, I believe, and that's why we got to this stage. I think it's based in as far as the finishing of 66th Street, the finishing of Schramm Road is based upon the development happening to the north. But we're at least at a point where we have a municipal advisor that thinks that he can sell this package to a municipal bond underwriting firm that's willing to finance our debt. So we think we have a feasible deal. My comment at the Planning Commission was, when they were concerned about that, I told them it's a two-way street. You won't see us if we don't have a feasible project, and you won't see us, and we won't see you because you won't let a infeasible project move forward, nor do we want an infeasible project to move forward. So I think we got there with respect to the source use of funds and the phasing of public improvements, and that's been helpful in our meetings with staff and with Chris Meyer.
And I think in addition to, I think you need to consider good transitional uses within a project. 72nd Street is going to be a 4-lane divided, essentially highway, arterial street with commercial adjacent to it. The proper transition is to some higher density residential to then a medium density product before you get to single family.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
so it's hard to sell single family homes up against that kind of
commercial
road and commercial.
Sure, I understand the method of transition from one type of zoning to another. So I appreciate the comments from both of you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I do want to make sure we stay, the question on the floor is a motion to table, and so I do want to keep questions to that. Are there any more council discussion on the motion to table?
Yeah, I just want to throw in one thing about what we're just talking about, what Mr. Mumgard talked about, what Mr. Jobin talked about. Mr. Jobin, you need to understand that when staff comes up with these suggestions, they're coming from the council. We've set a standard for them to follow, and they do a great job of following it. And if we come into a problem where you don't think G, E, or C should be on this, I'm just picking out numbers, I'll have a hard time supporting that because we believe in our staff. Our staff works very hard, and if they're asking for that, then that's what I want to see. So thank you.
Is there any more council discussion on the motion to table?
I would like to address that last point by Councilman Jaworski. Although I respect our staff immensely, I am not a rubber stamp, nor will I ever be. And I think Mr. Job has a good point that if there are ultimate disagreements, he has every right, and the council has every right to hear what those issues are, because ultimately this council, elected by the people, is the body that decides. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other council discussion? If not, please vote on the motion to table.
Sunday. Mumgard.
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes.
Stubbe.
Yes.
Ingberg.
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item F3, Resolution R200078, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a mixed-use development agreement for the property legally described as lots 1, 2, and 4, Prairie Corners 5, replat 2, formerly known as parts of lots 3 and 4, Prairie Corners 5, lot 5, Prairie Corners 5, and lots 1 and 2, Prairie Corners 5, replat 1, lots 6, 7, 8, and 9, Prairie Corners 2, generally located east of the intersection of Highway 50 and Cornhusker Road. The applicants are Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores, Inc., Mitty Properties, LLC, and Warner Enterprises. This is a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any
Good evening.
opponents?
This is
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. This is Matt Siebel, civil engineer with Shimmer, speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Go ahead.
And I gave a presentation 2 weeks ago at the council meeting. I wanted to give another brief rundown in case there's members of the public who were not available during that meeting. But the agreement is for a group of properties located to the southeast of 144th Street and I-80. The agreement generally seeks to establish a mix of uses between mostly industrial and some commercial to really support the trucking and logistics industry. Love's Travel Stops would be a main tenant within this area. Truck Center Companies already has 2 facilities in the area. They're a truck dealership service provider, as well as a truck mechanic school. There's also plans in the mixed use for a potential hotel in that region, as truck drivers often need lodging when they're in the area, a potential restaurant, and then some additional commercial and industrial uses to be mixed in. With Werner Enterprises directly across 144th Street, if we feel it's a very good fit for the area, and I'm happy to delve into any details or answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Do a motion to approve resolution R200078.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Jaworski.
Second by Klug.
Second by Councilman Glover. Council discussion, Mr. Mumgarden.
I just want to tell the applicant, Mr. Hubble, I am particularly pleased with the hotel reference. That really, I think, adds a tremendous amount of value to that location. And so I'm very glad to see that that's in there, and I would encourage you to never take that out, okay? Thank you.
Any other council discussion? Seeing, did you have something, Mr. Ingberg?
No, thank you.
Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Sunday. Baumgard.
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes.
Glover. Jaworski.
Yes.
Klug.
Excuse me, yes.
Stube.
Yes.
Engberg.
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F4, Resolution R200085, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a special use permit to allow a beauty salon as a home-based business home occupation for the property legally described as Lot 261, Summit Ridge, generally located at 1117 Summit Ridge Drive. The applicant is Sarah Schumacher, Sarah Schumacher Salon. This is a public hearing. I'll open it. Is the applicant want to say anything? And if you state your name for the record.
This is Sarah Schumacher. I'm just looking to put a one-chair salon in my basement. So.
Thank you. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? Seeing or hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to approve resolution R200085?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Jaworski.
Second by Klug.
Second by Councilwoman Klug. Any council discussion? Please vote. Oh, no. Please vote.
Sunday.
Aye.
Baumgard.
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Aye.
Klug.
Yes.
Stube.
Yes.
Engberg.
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you. It's all the regular agenda items. Next is committee reports, and I don't think any committees did meet. A reminder, we are going to have a public safety committee meeting to follow up on the previous items. Any comments from the floor? See none. Any council comments? Ms. Klug.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out that I note this evening we have at least one Scout BSA attending the meetings. These scouts have been doing meetings via Zoom all along, so this was just a great opportunity for this young gentleman to see that not only are scouts currently using Zoom, but so are government officials. So just wanted to welcome Gunnar to the meeting tonight and appreciate his interest.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
I would like to just make one comment. I hate to single out one group, but we have a lot of boys here in this community that play baseball that are just itching to get going. And I would just ask you, Mayor, if at all possible, if we can open this up for the boys to play baseball this year. I think it would mean a lot to a lot of kids. That's all I have.
Great comment. Let me follow up on that because it was actually a point of discussion today. There's been several groups that have asked if they can play ball. We're actually getting a clarification on one item. The governor's directive health measure that came out, the renewed one that covers May, very specifically says no organized sports. Now there is, I think, a question of does that include practice and can they start playing and getting ready? I believe most of the municipalities in the region are believing that the governor's order says no organized sports, so that implies practice as well, at least through May. But I do know the health department was raising that question to the governor today in a meeting to see is practices allowed and is there a mechanism to do that? And we should, I believe, get some clarity on what that regulation is maybe tomorrow. So keep you updated.
And I didn't mean to exclude the girls that like baseball either. I'm sorry about that.
But I think it's more of a baseball, softball conversation. So we'll update council at the conclusion of that. And just for the public's education, where that becomes an important conversation is a governor's directive health measure is an order. And the order then, the law as I understand it, requires the local municipality then to enforce that. And so if the governor gives a directive health measure, violation of that is actually a Class 5 misdemeanor that the county attorney says they will prosecute. So then we have the obligation to enforce that. So we're looking for clarity of what that is. And it is on that point. So we'll update council when we get that clarity tomorrow. Thank you. Any other council discussion? Just a couple of things for the last couple of weeks. Mainly it's just been COVID related. Continue to, Papillion hosts a daily multi-jurisdictional call. And again, just for a reminder for people if they're not aware, that's the mayor, city administrator, police chief, and fire chief from Papillion, Bellevue, Springfield, Gretna, Plattsmouth, and well, all 5 cities in Sarpy plus Plattsmouth. It includes the director of the Sarpy Cass Health Department. It is, so we get a direct official update every morning. It's the county attorney, county administrator, the county chair. It is the election commissioner, Sarpy County Emergency Management. It includes the commander from the Air Force 55th Wing Mission Support Group, and it includes Congressman Bacon's chief of staff from DC. So we're getting city, local, and federal updates every single day where we all meet. And so that's occurring every day. We have a weekly update with the governor. He reaches out, he has a call with all of the mayors in Nebraska, and that is an open dialogue. We can ask questions there. If people are not aware, the governor has a daily press conference, and a lot of that usually is around those items from the directive health measure, if it's a statewide issue. And then the White House has an update once a week to municipalities, obviously not a Q&A, but we do hear directly from the COVID task force team. So that's mostly what the week's taken up with. With the CARES Act that Congress is dealing with, Congressman Bacon did put forth a bill specifically to help municipalities. And he has 12 co-sponsors of that, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats. So it's a nice bipartisan bill that Congressman Bacon's putting forth on behalf of the community. So we hope to learn more about that next week. I think that's all the regular agenda items. We do have a closed session tonight. First time we've ever tried to do it virtually, mainly for education for the scout that's on or other people that might not be aware. There's only a couple of times that a government body can go into a closed session, and it's usually around land negotiations or a personnel item to protect public interest. No votes are taken in closed session. It's just a discussion around negotiation strategy. We will come out of closed session, and if there's any other discussion or votes, we'll do that in open session. The way we're going to handle it virtually is we will leave this Zoom meeting open because this is the open public body. The elected officials will leave and go into a separate Zoom meeting for the closed session, and we'll come back into this one for final votes and final adjournment. So is there a motion to go into closed session to protect the public interest to discuss land acquisition and potential litigation?
Motion by Klug.
Second
Motion by
Gaines.
Glover. Missed the second. I got a motion by Glover, second by Klug. Thank you. Is there any proponents? Any opponents? Any council discussion? If not, please vote.
Sunday,
Aye.
Mumgarde,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Fluke,
Yes.
Stube,
Yes.
Engberg,
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes, and I'll restate for the record, the purpose of the closed session is only to discuss land acquisition, potential litigation. The closed session will include the mayor, city council, city administrator, deputy city engineer, city clerk, and city attorney.